Have you ever asked yourself, what is my purpose? Better yet, have you ever walked on your job and felt unfulfilled? Hi, my name is Chandra Nicole Gore, and I am a Lens of Faith. I assist servant leaders in discovering their purpose, exercising their power, and walk by faith to live an abundant life. Using a 3-step program with the power of prayer, meditation, fasting, and the Discovering You program. What does that look like for you? See, God took me on an intentional journey 3 years ago to do some soul searching and discover my true, authentic purpose, my purpose-driven life. What I want you to do is connect with me now. Go to www.lensoffaith.org. Schedule your free discovery call today. God bless.
Welcome to Thursday Night at 8 with Lensoffaith. It's time to discover the gift God has for you. I'm bringing awareness to what God has for you and the purpose behind your pain. If you have passion in your soul and a gift you haven't unleashed, well, let's talk about it. Having served in the United States Army for the last 19 years and continuing to serve as a servant leader to inspire, motivate, guide, and assist veterans, I'm bringing a contemporary vibe to being happy and living your dreams on purpose. Each week, I will introduce you to a life filled with purpose and how that purpose is being used to glorify God, prescribing the tips, resources, and strategies to set you up for success. So now, let's jump right in and discover the gift God has for you. Welcome all. Greetings to my Facebook fans, YouTube, and Periscope. We are live tonight on Thursday Night at 8 with Lensoffaith. You know it, this month is all about domestic violence. And I have one of my sorors on the line with us today, ready to share a very poetic piece tonight. I'm super excited about Miss Valerie Young joining the show on tonight. And I want to tell you this, I need you to hit share, invite someone into the space because you don't want to miss tonight's episode. Tonight, we're talking about common signs of abusive behavior in a partner/spouse. So we're going to give you some information today. So I want you to jot down, take notes, and as a matter of fact, go ahead and tag and share. Send it to their messenger box if you don't want to really tag them on the page. Go ahead and send it to their messenger box and let them know that we're going live and we're talking about domestic violence tonight. I'm getting ready to bring up Miss Valerie Young. Greetings.
Hello.
How are you?
Greetings. How are you doing tonight, sister?
I'm blessed. I'm super excited to have you on. After I saw that piece that you're getting ready to deliver tonight, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm just super excited to have someone on the show tonight that is familiar with the topic and can share. So welcome to Thursday Night at 8 with Lensoffaith. Tell the listening audience a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Valerie Young, military veteran. I am a single mother of 2. Currently, I am a children's service worker or investigator for Children's Division. What we do mainly, we want to make sure we assure the safety of children, and we want to make sure we reunify the parent and child together.
All right. That's a very important role. Very important. So can you tell us a little bit more about what you do, or that's just the gist of it?
That is really the gist. I don't want to get too in depth because, we have a form of privacy when it comes to dealing with certain type of topics. Our main focus obviously is to make sure we protect the children from abuse and neglect. There's many forms of abuse. There's many forms of neglect, physical abuse, psychological abuse. We have neglect, medical neglect, educational neglect. And we want to make sure as investigators or children's service workers, we do what we can, make sure we file the proper paperwork, make sure we properly document to make sure that the children is safe first and foremost.
That's good. We need more people to do that. Tell us, sis, what do you think about this term that we used to hear back in the day? It takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah, it takes a village to raise a child. It's almost like community versus neighborhood. When you focus on the community, it's like when you and I are parents and the neighbors see something wrong with our child, they will step in to politely rear the child in regards to take care of them, guide them, motivate them, just tell them positive oriented things versus that neighbor who kind of to turn the blind eye and say, oh, well, that's not my business. It doesn't matter. Then you turn on the Channel 5 news and you see something happen to that child.
Absolutely. I remember back in the day when I heard that phrase all the time, it takes a village to raise a child. That's when every neighbor knew your children.
Yeah.
Every neighbor like, that's little Johnny, Cheryl's son. If you don't get your butt down off that mailbox.
It's modernism.
Yes, they knew children in the neighborhood and they made sure that children were safe. And they also looked out for one another. If anyone was breaking and entering, if anyone was causing domestic violence or involved in a domestic violence situation, they would immediately say something. See something, say something. That was the era that I was raised in because I got told on all the time. My neighbors wasn't playing. They would call my mama, call my daddy, and say, she's standing outside, it's the street lights on, you know? So I really would love to see that come back. I really would love to see that come back because we really need everyone to look out for everyone, you know? And I think that it's totally necessary now. I mean, we have people in domestic violence situations. We have teens in domestic violence situations that their own parents don't even know that this is going on. And so I would really love to see that come back, you know, the signs and symptoms that our teens are exhibiting, and they're taking themselves out because they don't want to say anything. Then you got cyberbullying. Then you have the taunting and the trauma that they feel just alone, you know, going to school every day with the people that are bullying them and causing a domestic violence situation at school and even with their own friends, you know. So I've seen so much now, and I'm one of those parents that I have access to my children's phones. I do phone checks all of the time, and I'm trying to make sure nobody is causing a domestic situation for my children where they are afraid for their lives or afraid to talk or afraid to say something. And so I really want to see that come back. It takes a village to raise a child. Wow.
And if I may, I want to talk about briefly, of course, when it comes to modernism, this is 2020. And yes, you see a lot of teenagers are dealing with domestic violence. But back then, you had studies such as the Kansas City study, speaking criminology wise, where it was okay and it was normal. And then you had the melanated side of the family where they knew things were going on, whether it was domestic abuse, whether it was sexual situations. They just turned the blind eye as if things wouldn't happen. So when they produced another generation or kids and their kids, they just turned the blind eye because they said, well, hey, it happened to me. But the problem was that trauma wasn't addressed properly. So that's another issue that we as a community should address, because it's still domestic violence. And now you pass it down from generation to generation, which is an issue.
It's definitely an issue. Generational curses, generational abuse, generational signs and symptoms that we overlook or sweep it under the carpet. Like, don't tell nobody that this happened. You know, now that moves to the next generation and they're afraid to talk. Don't tell nobody what's happening in your house. Well, you could just save a life if you do tell somebody what's happening in your house or tell someone what's happening to you. And there's always a way of escape. And I believe that I'm very all about God. I'm all about God, and I know that God provides a way of escape. But let's talk about some of the signs of abusive behavior. The first sign, sis, is someone that constantly tells you you're never going to do anything right. You can't get nothing right. Don't worry about it. You just a nobody. Tell us, what do you think about that when you even hear it? Just me mentioning it on the show. Talk to us about that particular time.
Well, that can be the us versus them. That can be the letdown syndrome where the victim starts self-blaming, or it could be that person who's blaming you that actually have the actual problem. We don't know the type of self-esteem that we as individuals have. Like, I don't know your wealth of self-esteem. I don't know your confidence level. So if I keep dragging down negativity connotations to you, either you're going to believe what I'm saying and start feeling it and start acting it out, or you're going to say, well, I'm good on that type of conversation, sis. I'm going to move to the left. It beats people down. It destroys people. And then you have to look at the past trauma that each individual suffers from. So if I have past trauma you didn't know about and you beat me up with those hurtful words, guess what? I'm going to believe what you say to me.
Exactly. And you know what? People don't even really realize what negativity can do to someone if they're constantly hearing it on a daily basis. They may even think that that's their normal. They may think that it's normal, like, oh, they tell me that, he tells me that all the time, or she tells me that all the time. And, there was one particular instance where I knew of a family, and every time I used to go over their house, they used to say this to their kids: sit down, stupid.
Mm.
Sit down, stupid. And I was like, thinking about hearing that every day. Sit down, stupid. That means now that's getting down, it's going through my ear gate, and it's manifesting itself in my limbic system. And it's creating a mental status called I'm stupid. And now I'm going to grow up. 6 years old, I'm hearing this. I'm stupid. Sit down, stupid. Okay, so now I'm stupid. Okay, so every time I interact with the people that's calling me stupid, I'm going to always believe that I'm stupid. I'm a nobody. I can't think for myself. I'm just stupid. And so this is why it's so critical that we speak positive affirmations to counterattack the negativity that we hear, the negativity that we see. And this goes on in households daily, every day. It's going on right now as we sit on this live. Somewhere out there in someone's household, someone is being demeaning.
Yeah.
And it's a shame. And so that's why I wanted to mention that particular sign, because if someone is saying something negative to you on a regular basis, that is a sign of mental abuse.
Yeah.
Mental abuse.
Form of violence. Aside from physical abuse, the mental abuse is one of the longest standing form of abuse that one could suffer from, mental, psychological, if you will, because that allows the person each and every day as they live their life, they tend to walk in that type of behavior. 9 times out of 10, it's all about emulation. If I keep speaking that negativity inside you, through you, around you, a part of you is gonna embed that. And if you start embedding it, you start living it. If you start living it, then it's normal. It's normal to you. So it's kind of hard for you to turn it off when you've been fed that 20 years or 15 years, or you see it all the time in the home. That's real when children grow up in a broken home, or if they had a 2-parent home and then they leave that home and start having it in their household. Real talk.
Absolutely. I see our listening audience is chiming in, and Kathy says, "In mental abuse, words trigger emotion." It absolutely does. I mean, something that happened to me over 30 years ago.
Wow.
In 2012, before I was healed from my sexual trauma, I used to hear the word and it triggered something in me, and it made me angry.
Exactly.
Because my abuser used to say that while he was molesting me. And so that triggered something in my mind and my psyche, and it took me back to that place. So when I decided to get therapy and help, I mentioned that to my therapist. And I actually went through EMDR, and helped to remove that particular phrase from my thought process, from my psyche, so I would no longer have it as a trigger, and it actually worked. It actually worked. Sabrina is chiming in, and Sabrina says, I was in an abuse relationship during the birth of my youngest son, and I had no self-esteem. No one knew. I was afraid and ashamed to tell anyone. Absolutely. This happens a lot, Sabrina. Glad you mentioned that. Thank you so much. It happens a lot. Fear is a limiter. Fear keeps us down. Fear keeps us from exposing what's really happening to us when we don't, number one, feel like there's a safe way to expose it, a safe way to get it out. Because people always want to make fun of you. They go run tell your business. They make it worse. You know, they may even go and tell the perpetrator, you know, and they make it worse for you. So I'm so glad that there is a confidential way to handle domestic violence. And you can call 1-800-799-SAFE, and that is 7233. 1-800-799-7233. And there are trained professionals waiting to help you, confidentially help you take care of your situation or point you in the right direction and provide some resource or tool that you can utilize to feel safe. So please call that number. Words hurt and have a long time effect. What do you think about that, Valerie?
Words hurt, have a long time effect. I definitely agree. When I think of that, I think about how words are powerful. You know, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, do you have a thick cloth on? Like, I try to see where it doesn't hurt you. But deep down inside in your subconscious, I can see how that can affect a person. Yeah. It's about you being comfortable with the skin you in. It's about you feeding yourself with the positive affirmations. It's about you having a strong support system. It's about so much, because what we don't want a person to walk this earth feeling like they are alone. When you do that, so many variables will attack you in so many ways. You can be attacked by alcoholism, sexism, racism, the wrong crowd, peer pressure. You have to understand that you're not alone on this journey when we're walking this earth.
Absolutely. I'm getting another sign here that's popping up right now, and actually, it is someone sending a confidential message. What happens if you have one or two friends that are constantly jealous of you, and every time you spend time away from them, they send mean messages? This is an adult saying this. So Valerie, if you could speak to that, someone showing extreme jealousy to a friend, and every time they decide to spend time away from them, they send them mean messages.
Well, first of all, we need to understand what is our definition of a friend. That, I think that's one of the problems with we as a people. We try to label people as something when we don't know whether it is or not. Our pastor recently spoke on the categories of friends. Now, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of categories, but he talked about casual friends, close friends, and core friends. Casual friends are basically those type of friends where you know around the way, you know, at the workplace and so forth. Close and core friends are people who you build intimate relationship, but that core is the more prominent one. And it's all about who you tend to let get in your circle to a point where they affect your decision-making process. I don't want to be rude to say I don't have friends, but I really don't have friends. And I don't mean to say that rudely. It's just I have a certain Thank you, Sabrina. I have a certain criteria when it comes to people. Now, I know my loyalty towards people. So if you want to call me a friend, I'm not here to stop you for that. But I'm respectfully saying I have to be picky and choose. That's just like if you a picky eater, you got to watch what you eat. So with that being said, I have plenty of associates. I have plenty of sorors. I have plenty of people that I know, but that word friend is really, it's not next to your intimate partner, but it is a form of intimacy. And that intimacy I'm speaking of is trust, respect, loyalty, honor, duty, and so forth. So when someone is having that title as my friend, and you're not doing that label as a friend, then you're not my friend.
That's right. That's right. You know, I'm glad you mentioned this, because the average person, if someone likes them, someone puts hearts on their page, on their social media page, or inboxes them from time to time, They may even share a meal with them once upon a time, but they don't really know this person personally. They start calling them friend, like, oh yeah, that's my friend, that's my friend. But they don't even really know nothing about them personally to call them a friend, right? And so they allow them into their circle, and then all sorts of things start transpiring. Well, I have a process now where I call vetting, okay? Because I've emptied my friend circle out. Now the people that I allow in are all vetted. I see the fruit of them as people, as a person, first and foremost. And we have to be very careful about the people that we allow in our circles and the people that we connect to, and especially the people that we put the label of friend on. Because everybody is not your friend. Like, I have a lot of networking people that I know. They're not my friends. they're associates because I just network with them. We share business opportunities. We share business cards. We invite each other to each other's events, things like that. But I have a close circle of friends that are really my friends. You know, they know a lot of things about me, and they have my back. I have sisters, some strong sisters that have my back, and there's a few of them on this line right now. And I thank God for them, because we do need people to support us. But first and foremost, you got to be able to support yourself. Do you love you? Do you love you? And if you love you, I need you right now, if you're listening to this live, to be safe. Be in a safe environment. If you feel like you are not in a safe environment, I need you to call that number on the screen, 1-800-799-7233. I am not a medical professional, but I am a trained, certified domestic violence counselor. So I am not a medical professional. I am a trained domestic violence counselor. And I want you to know that I can point you in the right direction. I can provide resources and tools, but I am not a trained medical professional, okay? Valerie, let's talk about this one. A person that prevents or discourages you from spending time with your friends, your family, or your peers. Talk about that for a second.
Oh, wow. If I can go back just a bit, a friend, someone you can mistrust. That's societal verbiage when you start labeling people as friends. I mean, on social media alone, they have John Doe requests to be your friend, not associates, not known associates, not homeboy, not whatever, friend. So what that does, they put that in your mind where you are limited to choices. So, okay, so to get back to your question, I'm sorry about that, sis. I had to get that out. When a person does that, I will call that a form of isolation. I think that's definitely a strategic move. One of the sayings I always have is chess, not checkers. Anyone, I encourage actually everybody to learn the game of chess, because yes, chess is a game, but what chess has that checkers doesn't is a strategic marking. You have to learn what position to play. And when I say play, I don't mean giddy and all that. I mean, we all have to think about what our position is in life. People purposely, when they purposely isolate you from your families and friends and loved ones, I do think that is a strategic move. By that being said, you got to think about, okay, well, what are you up to that you are isolating me from my loved ones? And when you start isolating a person from their loved ones and that loved one doesn't have that interaction like they used to, when you start to call out or reach out for help, guess what? You're not going to get it, because they're going to be like, oh, well, I haven't seen Chandra in a long time. I haven't seen Valerie. Oh, I thought she went off to, who knows? So I think that's a really strategic move about on people.
There's a I can't remember which one, or maybe it's Why Did I Get Married or something. I don't know. I can't remember that one. But she was isolated. The wife was isolated from her friends, and her family, and she was being beaten. Oh my goodness, she was being beaten. And when I think about a person being isolated, that means someone wants to intentionally keep them to themselves so they can do whatever they want to that person without anybody interfering, without them having a choice to go see this person, to go see that person. It's all about control and power.
Oh, yeah.
Control and power struggle. I don't want you to do this because I want you to do that. And that is a controlling human being that wants to control what it is that you're doing at all times. So please beware. If this is happening to you, it is a form of domestic violence.
Yes.
Norton said that often we get told to get over it, or you still feel that way. What's wrong with you? Get over it. Yes, I know exactly where she's going with that. Because oftentimes people who are in a controlling environment are told to get over it. Get over it. Even if they hit you, get over it. I'm sorry, get over it. Let's move on. You know, that happened to me quite a bit. I am a survivor of domestic violence. I was locked in a room and forced to sit there while my 8-month-old child watched while I was being abused in a room. And so, yes, I definitely understand that. Preventing you from going anywhere, moving, restricting your movement, all of that happened to me. That traumatized me. And then it in turn traumatized my 8-month-old child who grew up as a 1-year-old and was put in daycare. He was pulling girls by their hair because he saw his mother being pulled by his hair. So kids do what they see, okay? So this is what I want you all to realize, that we must understand that the environment that we are in, if it's unsafe, it's also unsafe for our children. Children do what they see. I had to send my child to a therapist at 2 years old because he was doing what he saw.
Yeah.
The little children in a daycare, okay? He was just repeating the behavior that he saw in his household.
Exactly.
It's real out here, and I'm telling you something that happened to me. I'm not telling you anything that I'm making up or a hypothetical situation. This is real. Domestic violence is real. And as much as I did not like what happened to me, it happened to me on purpose for me to be able to have a resume to tell you about my experience right now today in this season, because domestic violence is going up during the pandemic. Okay, there are people that are afraid to escape, and now they're trapped in homes with their abusers. They can't get out because they're there, they're quarantined or whatever, and it makes it that much more harder for them to find a way of escape. So I get it. I absolutely get it. Anything you want to say to that, sis?
Yeah, and that goes back to emulation. It goes back to strategic. Sometimes on purpose, our perpetrator will deliberately be the breadwinner of the home. They'll tell the women, hey, you good, you don't have to work, let me provide for you. And the moment you do that and the woman or the male doesn't have a backup for him or herself, now they're stuck against the wall. Like, okay, what do I need to do to get out this situation? It'll be 10 times harder. And then when you put children in the place of that domestic violence, because I don't put nothing past any kid's age. When they watch it, we have to understand from the ages of 0 to 5, they are sponges. They absorb everything that they encounter. So with that being said, even though they can't verbalize it, they will do it in a form of an act. So like when you said, when your child went to daycare, you're just pulling people's hair. Well, little Johnny, why are you doing it? I don't know.
Right.
Or mommy did it to daddy, or daddy did it to mommy. They'll say it in the shortest phrase. But children are affected. Husband and wives are affected. I do want to say, if I can pose a question, why are there many unreported domestic violence towards men versus women? Because men get abused too, and I think that should be definitely a highlight.
They do. Men do get abused, and I've met a couple men that were abused. As a matter of fact,
okay.
And I'm hoping to get one of them at least to come on the show to talk this month, and it was a very tragic situation for one. One is currently paralyzed.
Oh, wow.
Because he was violently attacked by his wife. So, yes, it does happen to men. And if you are a man and you are currently watching this show and you feel led to share, please inbox me. Please inbox me, because I would love for you to share your story and talk to other men out there that are being abused, because it does happen to men as well. This is not just restricted to women, and it's not just restricted to children, but it happens to men every day. Some man right now is being abused right now while we're on this line. So if you feel led to share, please, by all means, chime in. All right, sis, let's move on to the next one. Preventing you from making your own decisions, including about working or where to go to school.
Okay, we kind of touched up on that one. And what that person is doing is kind of closing you into a box. It's still about power and control. That's something simple as either having his or her name on all the bills or the house or the car. Well, where you gonna go? You ain't got nowhere to go. You don't own anything. Or if the woman or the man comes into the relationship and they used to have their name on their car or on their house, and then that person kind of manipulates them into the verbiage of having one person's name on the items. That's still a form of isolation. It's still a form of power and control. But the thing is, these days, people don't make it so obvious. It's just smooth like butter.
Yeah. You're right about that. You absolutely got
oil. Yeah.
Smooth like butter. All right, we've reached the halfway mark in our show. We're going to take a 1 minute break. And when we come back, Valerie's going to share with us a very poetic piece about domestic violence. Stand by. All right. The book can be purchased on Amazon or at www.lensoffaith.org. Welcome to the show, Sean. My soror. I see some of my sorors joining the show tonight. Welcome, welcome, welcome. All right, Valerie, take it away.
Okay, I'm going to read the one called Domestic Violence. I do have another one, but I'm going to read this one. Domestic violence. Violence committed in one's domestic circle. Circle of trust violated, mainly by a familiar face. Instead of silence, the victim has no words to be vocal. Whose fault is it? Then it hits me, self-blame. Not recognizing you are the victim, so don't walk in shame. Recognizing abuse is important. Does the perpetrator have a history of abuse? Educating oneself is crucial. Look for the signs and put it to use. It's not okay to be okay. From a black eye to a busted lip or aggressive sex, it's all about power and control over the victim. It's always checkers, not chess. Look for the signs. Fast-moving, dominant relationship to coerce, control. You'll soon see it's a monologue, not a dialogue, pure dictatorship. Triggers arise from the perpetrator. Control is lost. Careful, be aware. Your life could be a deadly cost. Watch for the signs, escalation and isolation of your loved ones. You will feel all alone. This poem is for mothers, daughters, fathers, and sons. Please be observant, for the perpetrator will try to change their tactics. Then comes the planning from a thought to something more drastic. Final stage of domestic violence. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. Homicide. The act of ending one's life violently, regardless of consequences, so much emotional turmoil turns to thoughts of suicide. See something, say something. Leave if you have the opportunity. I just don't want to see you as a domestic violence statistics. That's that poem. Thank you.
Blessings to you, sis. Thank you so much for writing that. I hope you get that published. I hope you get that
Thank you very much.
Yes, that's definitely needed. I hope to see that one day soon published. And I hope to see you writing a whole entire book of poems one day, because you're great at what you do. You're great at what
Thank you
you
very
do.
much.
Start writing, sis.
I got a whole catalog.
What I really hope that people take away from that is, what you said toward the end: see something, say something. There are so many people that are going through domestic situations, and let me be clear: domestic violence situations do not necessarily have to just occur between a husband or a wife, or a boyfriend and a girlfriend. It can occur between two friends. Okay, that can be a domestic violence situation. If your friend refuses to unlock a door and let you go out, that's domestic violence, okay? That's abuse. If they snap your phone telling you can't make any phone calls, that's domestic violence, okay? It doesn't matter who is doing it to you. It is a form of domestic violence. So don't get so hung up on, if it's not a husband and a wife, it's not domestic violence. Wrong answer. Please eradicate that thought process right now. Okay, so I don't want anyone to leave this live not knowing or understanding that domestic violence is more than just a husband and a wife, or two people that are married, two women or two men. It's more than that. Okay, it can just be a friendship with two people. It can be a family member. Okay, that can also be domestic. Any person that is causing abuse to you can be causing a domestic violence situation. Just want to let you know that. Here's another sign: pressuring you to have sex or perform certain sexual acts that you are not comfortable with performing. Talk to us about that, sis.
Well, we are living in a time where rape is very prominent. Some things are not reported. And when you're in a domestic partnership, most people will not call it that. That's why it's one of the most unreported situations. And then it could be turned to a form of embarrassment. How do I say this to my friend? Or I'm embarrassed to say this to a person. We have to choose who we disclose certain things to, because we don't have time when we divulge something so sensitive and someone take it as a joke. Because the moment that person does that, now we go in a shell and we don't express ourselves accordingly. So I do believe it's definitely real. One of the issues I will say is when they find a couple married, husband and wife, or husband and husband, wife and wife, however we see fit, they do want to say, oh, well, that's your husband. That's what it's supposed to be. So I think that can be an issue that should be expressed vocally. You're not a form of property. Yes is yes. No is no.
That's a word right there. Yes is yes. No is no. It's just that simple. Yes allows, no prevents. Says no access denied.
Yes.
Is pressuring you to use drugs or alcohol.
I'm sorry.
Here's the next one. Pressuring you to use drugs or alcohol. What you think about that one?
Peer pressure. And I hate to call it peer pressure when it's your your domestic spouse, but it really is peer pressure. It's just someone outside yourself saying, hey honey, why don't you try this and that and the other. But the problem is this: we live in a society where people lace things and put other things in what you think what you think the item supposed to be. You thinking you're drinking beer and you may be drinking some sort of dissolved date rape drug. Trust is a really good factor. And I feel like, if you want to socially drink, that's a choice that you choose to make on your own, but don't let anyone peer pressure you into that.
That's right. That's how I feel. If you don't want it, say no. And that should be the end of it. But nowadays you got people, hey, if you don't drink this, if you don't smoke this, if you don't snort this, you lame. You kicked out the circle or whatever. So I want my children to be mindful of people trying to force them to do things. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. If they force you to do it, you come get your mom.
Do you something 18? What do you mean? Oh my goodness. But that's true. We living in a society where people want to be in the in crowd. They want that validation. And for what? Like, you cannot be my friend if you're asking me to do something that's negative or that's going against my morals. And we got to think about that. What goes against your morals to a point where you feel like you have to be submissive to submit to doing the drugs or the drinking and what have you?
That's it. That's it right there. Sometimes, I should say, some people are not conscious enough to know that it's peer pressure or someone pressuring them to do something or trying to get them to sway, manipulate them in one direction or the other, unbeknownst to them, because all they know is how to walk the right path. And here comes, someone saying, oh, do this, and you'll be like this, or you'll be able to call yourself this, or with this in crowd or that crowd. All that is out for me. I'm making my own decisions. Look, you can't convince me to do anything I don't want to do. And we have to understand that we need to teach this to other people. We need to teach this to others so that they know. Someone may try to manipulate you into doing something that is a form of domestic violence, especially if it's something against your morals, something against your values or your principles. We have to live over valuable ethics, and that is love. That's why I say it's important for you to love yourself. Do you love yourself? I'm talking to the listening audience right now. Do you love you? If you love you, in my opinion, you are living over valuable ethics. There's some ethical decisions or desires or thought processes that go through your mind each and every day that allow you to live a certain way, live your life a certain way. And I'm here to tell you, no one is going to force me to do nothing I don't want to do, and that's including voting. I'm going to vote who I want to vote for right now. I'm not going to force me to hold my hands behind my back, no strong arm tactics. And that goes to the next sign. Pulling out guns, knives, bats, mace, any form of weapons, trying to strong arm somebody to do something. Have you ever seen this happen yourself, sis? Someone pulling out a gun, like you.
Yeah, that's when our exit stage left. We don't have to do all that. We don't have to do all that. And that's the bullying effect. Believe it or not, bullying has no age limit. So that's just what it is. Bullying has no age limit. When I do encourage the audience, if someone get to that point to pull out a gun, a knife, a weapon, or anything, just think cautiously. I always tell my children, look, do not lie. However, if you are in a position, you're going to have to be strategic in that position. And when you are away from that position, then I'm gonna need you to yodel, like he put. I know we live in a society where they say snitches get stitches and all that stuff, but there's nothing wrong with being strategic and cautious and saving your life here. Because how can you get a person that upset to a point where they have to pull a weapon on you? Like, that is just too much. But we got to think about when we cohabit with our mates. Do we really know their backgrounds?
Right.
That's really important that we have to ask ourselves.
And to what Valerie just said, when people, I know you all heard this before, when people show you who they are,
believe them.
I'm gonna say it again. When people show you who they are, even if you're just dating, okay? If they show you a sign that they have a domestic problem, a violence tendency, an anger situation, don't dismiss it, okay? Heed the warning, because it came out so that you could see who they really are. Once people show me who they are, I note it in my brain and I make a decision right then and there. Am I going to keep allowing this or am I not?
Exactly.
Can I deal with this or can I not? It's as simple as that. Make a quick assessment and say, do you want to deal with this later on down the line? Because you allowed it to happen right then and there. Oh, I'm allowed it to happen. People change. I'm going to give them a second, a third, a fifth chance. Let me tell you, sometimes those second, third, and fifth chances, you don't make it to that point because you are not a part of the land of the living anymore, because this human being has wiped you out. So do not allow people to get a yard when you should have only gave them an inch. Okay? When people show you who they are, believe the situation in front of you because it's real. It's real. And I brought it to the person's attention when it happened to me. You just did X, Y, and Z, and it made me feel afraid, scared. And I'm running for the hills and I'm never looking back. We can't even be friends. Deuces. I'm sorry. We cannot. Because I refuse to allow anyone else to bring a domestic violence situation into my life. I refuse. I've been there. I've done that. No one is going to mentally abuse me, and no one sure is not going to physically abuse me. I am a gun carrier, and I am not going down that route anymore. You're not going to put your hands on me, period. I'm going to in your stand your ground state, and I will stand my ground to protect me and my home. I'm just putting it out there right now. I do not ever want to cause harm or hurt to anyone. But if you come over here to this particular address,
oh my goodness,
911, and if you keep pressing on, there's going to be a different type of situation. But I am going to stand my ground. I'm just saying that. I'm going to protect me and my family first, always.
And sis, if I may, I do think it's important to mesh domestic violence with mental health illness. That is really, really important, because literally some people are not in their right mind, or they know not what they do, or they got some sort of diagnosis, sociopath diagnosis, psychopath, bipolar, schizophrenia, whatever. It's very important for us to know these type of historical dynamics of our people, not just melanated, but just our people as a whole, because that really plays a part. You know, people really do black out. That is a serious thing. So you want to further address that?
I do. There are a few signs and symptoms that people have certain situations going on that cause them to become irrational and start exhibiting a pattern of unethical behavior, abusive behavior, and understanding that abuse shows up in different ways. People may have been abused themselves, so then they do what has happened to them. But most importantly, people that are exhibiting signs of mental health conditions need assistance. They do need help. So I know right now that the Department of Veterans Affairs has a hotline dedicated to people exhibiting mental health symptoms. So you can call the veterans hotline if you know of the person being a veteran, because there are a lot of people exhibiting mental health conditions right now, and they're not taking care of themselves, especially during this current season that we're in right now. Now, if you're a regular civilian, you can still call that number, 800-799-7233, and get some assistance for anyone exhibiting mental health breakdown, mental health symptoms at all. If you are aware of a person with mental health issues. Now, sometimes you may not know that the person has mental health issues. They could just start going off, or they've never revealed to you that they have mental health issues. It's always a great idea to call 911. I'm going to say that again. It's always a great idea to call 911 if you have the opportunity to do so. Okay? Call 911 because you may not know that person's signs and symptoms of exhibiting a mental health crisis. There are many people breaking down right now, going through financial situations, loss of home, loss of car, loss of friends, loss of everything. They're breaking down mentally and they're not calling their doctor. They're just breaking down. Okay? Someone that's always saying, you know what? I don't care. I don't care. I don't care. That's a sign of a mental health crisis. A person always saying, I don't care. I don't care. That doesn't bother me. I don't care. And they're saying it in a sarcastic way. So look out for that type of sign or symptom. Also, a person that starts giving everything away. All of a sudden, they're starting to give stuff away. You're like, what the heck going on? They done gave away their table, their couch, their bed. Next thing you know, you drive past their house one day, everything is sitting out on the line, and they like, I'm getting ready to leave. Well, where you going? Did you tell anybody you was going anywhere? Someone that starts drinking every day, all day, and you don't know them to do that on a regular basis. They may have been drinking occasionally, and then all of a sudden you're like, dang, this person's drunk every day now. Yeah. That's kind of a mental health crisis. Someone that starts, using drugs. And you're like, that person didn't never use drugs, and now they always high. Or sometimes you just fidgety, or they shaking. That's a sign of mental health crisis. So you can be an advocate by calling 911, by calling your local Veterans Crisis Line, 1-800-273-8233. You can call that number as well. And you can get some assistance, 1-800-873-8233. You can call that number and get them some assistance as well. Anything else you want to add, Valerie?
Yeah, I definitely agree that when a person does things out of character, when those special holidays come up, when you, like you said, when you give away items, when you just have this sense of numbness, emotionless feeling, all that is really important. And that's why I'm saying when you classify someone as your friend, you better know that person as your friend. That intimacy, that mannerism, that body language, you have got to know and understand that person. And if you don't, how can you call that person a friend or associate or someone that you have known for a very long time? Because I'd rather someone say, well, hold on, Valerie, that's really out of character that you have been doing this. And you can flat out ask someone, hey, are you feeling suicidal? Do you want to hurt or harm yourself? Hey, where do you get these fresh bruises from? You can question them, because if that's your friend like you claim, then questioning them shouldn't be an issue.
Absolutely.
With respect, of course. We don't want to disrespect nobody.
Absolutely. There's always a way to consult with your friend about what it is that they're going through. I remember walking up to one of my friends saying, hey, sis, can I take you to lunch? Because I noticed something wasn't right about her. Ended up taking her to lunch, and when we sat down, she took off her jacket and she had like cut marks on her wrist. And I was like, I didn't directly say, sis, why you got cut marks on your wrist? What I said to her was, sis, how are you doing today? And she started crying immediately. And I said, sis, do you want to leave out of here and we can go somewhere safe to talk? And she said, no, I'm very hungry. I want to eat. And so we sat there and ate, and she cried the entire time we were eating. And I said, after this, would you like me to take you anywhere? I'll take you wherever you want to go. And she said, yeah, I want to go to the hospital. That's because I opened up a portal for her to be able to communicate with me. She trusted me enough to get her to a safe place. Got her there and discovered she was being evicted from her home that day. And this was a person I knew in the military. Wow. She was evicted out of her home, didn't have anywhere to go, and was afraid to tell anybody. And she was going to take herself out because she was getting evicted from her home.
Wow.
Yeah, she wasn't being abused, but she was going through something mentally, And I'm glad that I was there. And so that's why, my God, that's why when I was working at Fort Gordon, I actually saved a lot of people from committing suicide. For some reason, at Fort Gordon, there was a lot of suicidal people. And I was so glad. See, there's a reason God has you in certain places.
Yeah.
I was there to talk to 17, 18, 19, 21, 23-year-olds going through the training environment that were suicidal. So we have to watch out for the signs and symptoms. And before we get out of here, sis, I'd like you to share this before we leave. What is the best way to document warning signs, dating abuse, behavior, if you're going through something and you don't wish to share it out in public? Tell the listening audience a couple of tips they can utilize to share with themselves and keep a documented account of everything that's happening.
Number one thing I will honestly say, if I may, I would say journal. Journaling is very powerful. When you journal, you focus on the thing that happened in that moment. And when I say journal, I don't mean anything exaggerated. I don't mean anything outside your mind. I'm talking about what specifically happened. You can have different types of journal, but when it comes to this of a different nature, you want to make sure you journal. Make sure you have a support group or a support system. Now we living in a time where there are support groups on social media. Get with someone you feel comfortable with talking to. It's okay to be sensitive about this matter because it is a sensitive matter. So you don't want to talk to any and everybody about it because you don't want your business out there. Just document the best way you can. See something, say something, be strategic, be very observant. But number one, please journal. That's the best thing I can think of.
I'm going to the fact that I kept journaling about everything and anything that has ever happened to me. I used to write it down. And when I came to the decision to go through a divorce, one of my sorors told me to look back over my journal. I was having an issue with, do I fight for my marriage or do I let it go? And my soror said, sis, go look back over your journal. And I went and looked back over my journal and I cried because I found 101 red flags that I allowed to happen to me over the course of 12 years. And I said nothing. I did do something on several occasions, but I allowed those things to happen. 102 of them, to be exact, because I went back over all my journals and I counted 1, 2, 3, 4. What is wrong with you, Chandra? How did you miss all of this? It wasn't that I missed it. I swept it under the rug. I allowed it to pass like a conveyor belt. I didn't address it. Instead, I accepted it and allowed the other person to think that it was okay. So I'm here to tell you today that if you have ever had a chance to look back over your life,
yes,
don't allow those things to continue to happen in your life. So I now have the ability to discern, focus on what I do want to accept and what I don't want to accept. And my list of don'ts is pretty high. I am not going to allow the same things to ever happen to me again because I took an account and I got a chance to look back over my life. Some people are dead and gone and they don't get that chance to look back over their life. So I'm here to tell you today that if you've had an opportunity to write down and journal, one day you may decide to turn that journal in to the court of law when you're going through a court case. You might decide to turn that journal into the police to let them know, look at all this stuff that happened to me. So that is the reason for jotting things down so that you can have an account of what has happened to you. And journals stand in a court of law. I'm here to tell you.
Yes, it does.
You stand in the court of law. So just acknowledge that fact that you can use your journal in a court of law. Any final words from you, sis?
It's 9:00.
I'd like to thank all the listeners out there. I'd like to thank you, Chandra, for putting me on the show. I definitely appreciate this platform. For those out there who are going through something, please do not hesitate. Please dial the number 1-800-799-7233. Thank you.
God bless you for tuning in tonight. I just pray and hope that you are all safe and free of any hurt, harm, or danger. Once again, if you're not, call the number that is scrolling across the screen. Blessings to you all. God bless and have a great rest of your night.
God bless. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. You have been listening to Thursday Night at 8 with Lensoffaith. I would like to thank all my listeners and followers for your support as God blesses me to be a blessing. Connect with me now at www.lensoffaith.org. I want to hear from you. Please like, share, and follow me on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Tumblr, and Twitter at Lensoffaith Speaks. If you wish to sow a seed, please use Cash App, $Lensoffaith Speaks. God bless. Have a good evening, everyone. Thanks a lot, sis, for tuning in and being on the show with me tonight.
God bless.
Yes, sis.